And if you love construction, there's no better place to be. All right, we'll give you guys a chance to ask some questions in a bit, but let's get to know Ron a little bit. I was looking at your page on the IMDb, and something that stood out to me was that early on in your career, you were interested in stand-up comedy. Wondering if you could tell us a little bit about that.
For about 5 minutes. All I had to do to get over it was to try it once. That shit, I don't know how to do that. One bad joke, nobody laughs. You know, you want to put a gun in your mouth. There's a great story about John Wayne. I guess doing, he tried his hand at some point to some Shakespeare. And I can't remember what play it was, but he was halfway through the play. He realized that no one in the audience was really down with it. He turned to the audience and said, "I didn't write this shit." I thought that was a really good excuse. That's why I became an actor.
What were the films and the actors that fascinated you as a kid and made you want to get into the business?
Well, I got really lucky. My dad was movie crazy, and he came up in the golden age of cinema, the 30s and 40s, where the greatest movie stars to date were all cavorting. And he turned me on to everything that I have come to love more now than I did even back then. I would have to say the seminal moment was Charles Laughton and the Hunchback of Notre Dame. I couldn't believe that something so ugly could also be so beautiful at the same time. And it kind of touched me in a really, really kind of deep place. And it's just strange that the first, at least half of my career was spent, in these sort of transformational characters that looked like one thing on the outside, but were very different on the inside. And that was a coincidence, but the Lord works in a mysterious way, because that was the first performance that was mind-blowing to me. It was like how a man is able to convey so much with hardly any dialogue. Really. I mean, the Hunchback doesn't say very much in the whole movie, but he's telling eons of story. So there was that, but the greatest movie star of all time, Cary Grant. If I'm ever in a bad mood, I throw a Cary Grant movie on, and I'm completely in a good mood immediately. And then Gary Cooper, and Cagney, and Bogey, and Eddie G, and The Duke, and later on, Montgomery Clift, Marlon Brando, Paul Newman. I'm leaving out a lot of my heroes, but those names are people who will actually change the trajectory of how my day is going if I pop in one of their movies. I mean, truly, truly transforming.
And I'm going to guess that connection that you made has something to do with the fact that you're known for a lot of roles where you're under heavy makeup and prosthetics. Are you one of those actors who prefers to have those accoutrements to help you figure out who the character is?
In the beginning, yeah, decidedly, yes. Without becoming too psychoanalytical, it was easier for me to act anonymously than it was to kind of act presentationally, which is using this as the foundation for whatever character I needed to play. Because I wasn't very comfortable with this in the beginning. If I could hide, if I could put a mask over myself and create some sort of a wall between myself and the world, then I could get private and do the work that one needs to do as an actor a lot easier. around in my 40s, and especially in my 50s, I began to get really, really comfortable with myself. And if you notice, that's the time when the prosthetic makeup work became less and less and less. And, you know, I was more and more comfortable, you know, being naked.
Early in your career, you've got a strong Canadian connection in the film Quest for Fire, in which you were nominated for a Genie Award. Tell us a little bit about what that experience was like, because that was really your first high-profile feature film gig, correct?
It's my first film, period. It's my first experience with film at all. I've never done any real television when I was coming up. So it was transformational. It took place in 1980. It took a year to film. It was victimized by an actor's strike, which made it revert into being a Canadian production so that we could actually film it, because originally it was an American production. When the actors struck, actors couldn't work. So, of course, by the time we started filming, the strike was settled, but it remained a Canadian production, and it was eligible for these awards. So, you know, I thought I was going for the Oscars. I was really... Hey, welcome to Canada. Oh, you have one of these too? But yeah, we walked up in Owen Sound. There's some real caves up there, actually, it turns out. Since we was doing a caveman movie.
That must have been a bit of a grueling shoot, though.
It was brutal, man. It's brutal. I still have goosebumps. It was cold. We were naked. Talk about naked.
She said every time you say naked,
you know, there's not a lot of times I'm speechless. Thank you, Tom.
This is going sideways. It's not waiting money.
Depends on how you define sideways.
Maybe it's going full frontal ways.
This could be what we all came for.
All right. I read a quote from you recently.
You don't expect me to get serious now, do you?
I was trying to switch gears, but we'll see how it goes. I read a quote from you that said, "I've always felt there are aspects of me that were monstrous," and I'm wondering what those aspects are and how they've informed your career.
Anybody in this room?
I said monstrous.
Let's get back to the naked question. Which actually sometimes is one and the same, but has anybody in this room ever heard of the term low self-esteem? Well, I had that when I was a little kid. And you just feel like, you know, two left shoes. I mean, you know, you feel like the world is a tuxedo and you're a pair of brown shoes. There's a lot of shoe alliteration to where I'm going here. But, you know, you feel, even though you're wrong, you know, even though everything that you're thinking is a distortion of reality and it has nothing to do with reality, it's happening in your head, so it's very real. And, you know, there's the monster. There's like this, this is why no one loves me. This is why I'm not going to fit in. This is why, you know, and that's the metaphoric monster that I was referring to. And anybody who's ever had any self-doubt, anybody who's ever been twisting in the wind when everybody else is moving in a certain direction, anybody who's ever, you know, felt like, you know, I just don't fit in, knows the feeling that I was trying to describe with that word, monster. And so the meeting of Guillermo del Toro without exaggeration, you know, I regard that as a religious experience because Guillermo's whole obsession as a storyteller is the examination of monsters and how that is the most human sort of, like monsters in Guillermo's movies are more human than the humans. I don't know if you've ever noticed that. And so when I met him and I became part of his paint box, you know, and he used me over and over again. Hellboy was metaphorically the Hunchback of Notre Dame. He was somebody that, you know, couldn't live in the world because he was too different and too strange, and yet he had more human qualities to aspire to than, you know, you could list. So that's what that all meant. And I'm sorry if I went from nakedness to being a downer. I try not to let it happen too often.
Is there a